My name is Rachel Uhrig. I lead the ecosystem reliability engineering team at SiriusXM. I am supported by an outstanding team of engineers who help me provide a frictionless user experience powered by highly reliable services. So today, I'm going to tell you about a program that I created to help launch our next-gen app. Don't worry if you're not releasing any new products. This program is a vehicle to help drive reliability at any stage of development. My goal for you today is to be able to walk away with an end-to-end readiness program or have some ideas of how to improve reliability within your organization. By a show of hands, how many people listen to music? Love it. How about podcasts? We're here for it. All right, according to Google and Statista, 93% of the population listens to music and then 40% respectively. Our mission at SiriusXM is to shape the future of audio where everyone is effortlessly connected to the podcast channels and the music that they love. Our product portfolio at SiriusXM consists of SiriusXM, Stitcher, Simplecast, AdWids, and Pandora. To ground ourselves and provide a little bit more context for our conversation today, I wanted to provide some numbers just so that we know what we're working with. We have about 33 million subscribers, 150 million listeners. We gross about $9 billion in revenue on an annual basis, and our organization is composed of about 1,200 engineers. Our legacy systems made it difficult to build new features, improve UI, and rectify a growing number of reliability issues. So the decision was made to re-platform SiriusXM. Some of our core challenges that I wanted to highlight for today started with our launch strategy. Because this was not a new-to-market product, SiriusXM has been around for decades, we had to launch our new platform alongside of our legacy app. A big bang launch meant that we only had one chance to get it right. We also restructured our organization to be highly distributed. This distribution of teams allowed us to move quickly, especially when it came to development. However, this introduced a lot of integration risks. What I feel was our greatest challenge was our legacy culture. We had a culture of prioritizing features over reliability. This created, as you can imagine, an unstable and wildly unreliable user experience. And lastly, this is the most fun, we only had a year to do this entire thing. We had to ensure that 150 million listening experiences were unaffected. My personal goal, which is what I'm so excited to talk to you all about, was how to change the culture around reliability at SiriusXM. How do we shift culture and reliability from an afterthought and moving it to the center of development? All right, this is a moment for story time here. I was in the office one day and I ran into our CTO, Joe, in our kitchen office. And I asked Joe if he was more of a ask for permission or beg for forgiveness kind of CTO. He said that he skewed towards forgiveness. That was all I needed to know for what I was about to do. What you're looking at here is a very early morning covert mission where we graffitied Joe, again, our CTO's conference room. This was our production readiness plan. It outlined two things for us. First, what it meant to be production ready. So moving away from a binary go live or not, and to quantitative and qualitative metrics. The next is paving the path to how we actually get there. Right? How do we get to launch safely? How do we de-risk this entire process so that we're launching a reliable app to market? One of the tools in our production readiness plan was readiness days. Imagine it's launch day. This conference room is now a war room. We have thousands of engineers across the globe dialed into our Zoom bridge. We have dozens of other teams in all of our sister rooms in Javits, all waiting for launch. Our partner vendors, Datadog, are on standby. We have AWS also next door, waiting for their queue. Our CEO, Jennifer, just walked into the room. She's here to wish us a successful launch, which is also just a subtle reminder that the pressure's on. The Datadog service catalog is projecting on the screen. It's our single source of truth and also our pulse on whether or not everything is still up and running. Left side of the room. Remember how I told you this was going to be a little interactive? You're our playback team today, okay? You are responsible for our end user listening experience. Center of the room, you all are commerce. You're responsible for payments. All right, and right side of the room, you are search. You're responsible for content discovery. First two rows, you are now our ops team. You are our first line of defense when incidents actually occur. All right. Are you all ready for launch? What are you looking for? All right, you guys ready to launch? All right, let's do it. Boom. All right, we're live. Oh, shoot. Playback. Your SLOs are breaching. What's going on? What's that? Playback failed. Okay. We'll give you a break. There's only 3 of you. Commerce, your payments are failing. Any idea why? Can you speak up a little? Communications, okay. Why else might they be failing? Downstream payment processor. All right, search. You don't even know there's an issue. Users in X are blowing you up. They're saying that they can't find their artists, and we haven't changed our catalog. What's going on? Howard quit. Node clusters are down. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. Ops. You all aren't even getting alerts. How do we fix this? Roll back. Okay. So all these questions, right? We're trying to figure out whether or not we have an issue. We're trying to identify what that specific issue is, trying to identify the root cause, and then we have to figure out how to get our services back up as quickly as possible while limiting impact to users. That was an example of readiness days. So readiness day isn't just a chaos test. Readiness days are monthly mock launch plans where we orchestrated 3 things. Our launch plan specifically to ensure that everything ran smoothly end-to-end on launch day. We showcased our latest functionality. This built a lot of momentum and built confidence that we were meeting our goals along the way. And last but not least, running a series of increasingly integrated chaos tests. This ensured our application was launched reliably with a high confidence and resilience. So I created a set of tenets to drive progress towards what ultimately led to us achieving our primary objective, which was embedding reliability at the center of development. Your tenets may vary based off of what your goals are, but these should be built to support all of those objectives and getting you to your end goal. Our first tenet was holding the line. We wanted to establish best practices and non-negotiables that we held firm on. I can't tell you how many times we had the conversation about which of the 22 prod environments we should be working in our legacy HAP. Today, we hold 3. We have dev, test, and we have production. It becomes a very slippery slope when you start making negotiations and exceptions for staging environments. The next was creating a safe space to fail. We wanted to encourage a lot more trust amongst our teams and increase our deployment frequency. In our legacy world, we saw that we had a lot of built-up changes before they were ever promoted. And this caused, as you can imagine, a slew of issues that we could never even identify the root cause of, and then we ended up having to roll back. One way we supported this in Readiness days was ensuring that our executive team was never invited. So this was an exclusive group just for basically VP and down, for us to get into a space together in the event we experience failure. The next is winning together. Related to the last, as a safe space to fail, we created this win together, lose together culture. It established a level of camaraderie. Again, we had to launch this entire thing in a year. It was a grind, right? Being in the pits with people that you feel that you trust and you enjoy working with, right? Really made a very unique culture and helped drive a lot of this forward for us. I was hosting one of our Readiness days out of our London office, and this was the first time we had our back end and front end at a level where we could actually integrate. We had one of our front-end engineers prompting the first time we were live testing one of our connected devices. And I remember he asked Alexa to play a certain channel. And what were milliseconds waiting for that moment, right, for that music to play, felt like an eternity. But when it did, everybody just got super rowdy. It was really, really cool. Couldn't even tell you what song was actually played, which was the best part, right? We just heard that noise was happening. It could have been Lord knows what, but we all really enjoyed it. So it was really neat. That supported that winning together culture. The last, and probably the most important, was dates do not move. Our launch date, we had no control over, and that wasn't moving. Thus, we're replicating that in Readiness days. If our launch date isn't moving, why would we ever move our Readiness days? All right, talk is cheap. Are the results? Improve user experience. We were able to launch our app without any SEV 0 or 1 issues. This not only resulted in a positive user experience, but you'll see over time this reduces user churn and then snowballs into a higher LTV for your user base. Next, a reduced development cost. Getting things right the first time allows us to move directly onto our new roadmap items instead of spending a lot more time reworking and fast follows. Third, improved engineering efficiency. I'm going to call this out in two sections. We have our pre-launch and our post-launch. Pre-launch, we were able to cut developer overhead by instrumenting a few things that we'll talk about in a bit that should be centralized and standardized. This allowed all of our services to meet our deadlines for each of our Readiness days. Post-launch, this one's a bit more fun. We have this metric, which is something we like to laugh about. In the 3 weeks post-launch, we were able to complete more deployments, whether it be bug fixes and new features, than we were the entire year prior. Last but not least, MTTR, MTTD. Mean time to recovery for SEV or P1 and 2 issues. P1, we improved post-launch by 72%, and P2 by 69% respectively. All right, now that you're aware of the benefits, how do we actually get started? So if you want to take this back home for wherever we are, whether it be New York, somewhere else in the States, or otherwise, go for it. Start now. I had a fun conversation with one of my advisors before getting this initiative kicked off, and he said, why don't you start now? I said, Steve, nothing exists. We haven't built anything. He said, why not create fake endpoints? And I said, oh, why not? Will that work? Toss it around, tried it out. It did. Those who actually have an existing product, you're already ahead of the game. This will be much easier for you. But again, net new, out of the gates, you can still start moving. This one I think is really important, and this was a lesson that we had to learn the hard way. Aligning your chaos program around your development timeline. So our development timeline followed sort of a three-phase approach. And again, based off of where you are in your progress and your development, you can adjust this accordingly. But the first was instrumentation. So early days, end-to-end functionality doesn't exist, right? Like we didn't have anything actually developed. It does not make sense for anybody from a time perspective or a resource perspective, especially when you're under the gun, to bring everybody in a room for unit testing. You're not building anything from camaraderie, trust, et cetera, et cetera. We built an OAC framework, observability as code, to standardize and centralize a lot of our Datadog instrumentation. This greatly reduced the cognitive load from our engineers, allowed them to focus strictly on development. And not only that, it also ensured that everything was set up properly. From a chaos standpoint and perspective, what did we do here? So we injected network failures that took all of our services down. And what we were looking for there was to make sure that all of our escalation paths, all of our attribution around everything from service catalog to all of our GitHub, all of our repos, everything was set up properly. And again, what we're doing here is we're testing specifically, was ops team the correct on-call engineer page? Did your Slack channels have the correct information? Were your escalation and runbooks set up properly and connected? Datadog products that we used here, primarily service catalog, more specifically, the ownership, reliability, and delivery for all of that validation. Next is the integration and observability. We tested integration across services and our team's ability to use our tooling and use it properly. We killed our DynamoDB access. A lot of our services have dependencies on Dynamo. The services that did not have dependencies on Dynamo had dependencies on services that had dependencies on Dynamo. So effectively, everything was out, right? It was just another variation of that. Our teams were aware there was an issue, but what my team did was we masked the error. So we sent an alert, said, oop, there's an issue, but we didn't give you any more information. So we had services go through Datadog to figure out what the specific issue was. And again, what did we intend for them to look at? We had a few things. We had created at this point custom dashboards that provided a little bit more context as to what was going on outside of their environment, their immediate environment of any given service. And then logging, right? Could they access their logs? Did they know how to read their logs? And then were they able to go through and figure out what said issue was? This uncovered a huge gap in our organization. We had most teams not even able to identify the issue, let alone the root cause. So what we did here is we called our account manager, Aisha. She came in, she did a ton of trainings to get our team up to where they needed to be in order to make this successful. Last but not least is disaster recovery. This tested the resiliency of our apps and our team's ability to minimize downtime in the event a severe incident occurred. We ran a series of combinations of sort of the aforementioned tests, and again, in addition to region evacs. The fun part about Datadog here was validating that teams were actually able to meet the goals and the thresholds. So what do I mean by that? We had teams exercising rollbacks, hot fixes, and canary deployments. So what we were doing in tandem was monitoring how they were doing these things, whether or not they were successful, and whether or not they met the threshold of criteria that was acceptable for us to give them a pass. So a rollback, how quickly were we able to do it and did it complete in the threshold that we allowed said rollback to go through. Okay, next is getting buy-in. In order for this to work, and depending on how big your goal is, you need participation and buy-in. Our goal was aggressive enough where we were trying to change the culture of an entire organization, so we needed buy-in from quite a bit of people. I don't want you to underestimate the power of marketing and keeping it fun. Has anybody ever seen that, I can't believe I'm saying this, the Fire Festival documentary on Netflix? Okay, yeah. So this guy was able to generate a lot of buzz around this thing that didn't exist and then also never delivered on, for those who haven't seen. All by marketing. It's pretty brilliant. Took that one for this concept of Readiness Days. I downloaded just a free email template generator and started creating themes around these things. Made it feel exclusive. It was invite only. You know, a lot of buzz around this really cool thing that we were doing, and it worked. I'm not necessarily encouraging that, but if you were to try it, I'd be interested to see how it works for you as well. So as I mentioned, each Readiness Day had its own theme. There was a lot of different content, a lot of different like images and things around said theme, and then on the actual Readiness Day itself, which for context ran from anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, depending on what we were shooting for. It was an entire day thing. It wasn't a huge effort and lift for everybody to attend. It was something relatively simple. One of our themes was get to know our leadership team. At this point, we had a number of reorgs that I think started to perhaps change the morale of the group a little bit. So I wanted to humanize our leadership team. I crowdsourced a list of absurd questions from our engineers to send to our execs. We also asked for baby photos, and I made it a requirement that they filled these things out, and they did, funny enough. Two of our execs answered one of the funnier questions, I thought, which was how long they would survive a zombie apocalypse, to, again, mention that they would outlive the zombies. It's just the confidence that these guys have, and I'm sure your tech execs also have. They're probably similar to ours. They would not survive that long into a zombie apocalypse, let alone outlive the zombies. Any event, you get the idea. It's fun, it's lighthearted, it brought us all together, and then provided just a little bit of a laugh along the way. Last but not least, set the foundation. This is an opportunity to drive new values and ways of working in your organization. Our goal, again, was to build a culture that was centered directly around reliability. Readiness Days were our primary vehicle to getting there. We were able to shift reliability from a top-down culture, like these are the requirements that you have to follow in order to deploy, to bottoms up, right? That was the coolest thing for us to experience and us to be a part of. Don't be afraid to set standards that you want your organization to follow straight out of the gates. And then just build everything and work backwards from there. Do y'all remember the previous photo that I had up here? This is our conference room today. So as you can see, there isn't a production readiness plan on the board. We no longer need reminders that reliability is core to what we do. It's officially embedded into our SDLC, and I think this is the strongest representation of that just because of where we started. Where do we go from here? We moved to a self-service model. We're still in sort of the transition, so we're working through this as we speak, but a lot of how we're supporting that is through tooling. I think the two primary tools that I want to encourage you all to think about today are the ones that I think are giving us the most momentum, which is first, our engineering excellence framework. This is intended to ensure our reliability culture grows and matures as our organization grows. This is something that we can't afford to remain static. this will become what we just moved out of, right? Our legacy app and our legacy culture. So this is intended to move with us. How are we actually executing on this? We developed a list of health and maturity metrics that fall into 3 areas. We have our platform, our engineering excellence, and our business metrics. So a lot of the product releases and announcements that you heard today fall directly into these buckets, which is exactly how we're going to support this organization in this effort moving forward. The next piece is this is accessible at any given point in time for service teams. This allows them to access, measure, monitor, and improve their performance at any given point in time. The next layer to this, and I think is probably what most people have the most questions about, is a chaos testing framework. So allowing teams to self-service their chaos tests that will best service their particular service or really domain versus us taking everything out in broad strokes, right? So that example that I gave earlier, which is commerce specific, which is search specific, which is playback specific. So I encourage you to try some of, if not all, of what you heard today, hopefully not just the marketing, and improve the reliability within your organization. I'll open this up for questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Rachel. We have a bit more than 10 minutes for questions. If you have a question, please stand up and come to the mic.
Hello. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you started the conversation, you talked about the new and the legacy, right? And I'm on the same journey, right? I got a new thing coming in. We got Datadog all over it, but I've got this legacy product. Did your transformation that you encountered, did you apply some of your concepts to your legacy product as well? Because I got the impression that when you launched, you had to launch and keep the other one up. Okay, how did you apply some of it to legacy, or did you just let legacy die on the vine and go away? I can't afford to do that. I have to keep them both up for a long time.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are in a situation, honestly, where our primary product, we're going to sunset. It's still going to be our product, right? It's just going to move into our new. So we are on the path on bringing that into our new product. That said, that is not going to be the case for all of our products. So we will be layering in our existing standards into our older products that we are not going to re-platform. In that case, we're using a similar approach, but all of these principles are falling into our old product. I think what is key for us to highlight there, that I at least want to talk about, is the people perspective and standpoint. So we are still going to have distributed teams. We are going to have different teams that are working on different products. And in order for this to be successful for us, we're going to need to bring those same people along the same journey. And it goes more than just, again, the top down. In order for this to be successful long term, we want it to be bottoms up. So it's ensuring that they feel comfortable and they have trust in all of these same principles in order for them to really buy into this concept long term.
It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Well, that's all they know is that old legacy system.
Yeah, and we have the same. Yeah, we have the same challenge because we have folks that have been in this business for multiple decades, and they know their systems back and forth, right? And we're trying to teach them not only the new way of doing things from a technology standpoint, but from a culture standpoint. And that teamwork along the way helped dramatically. I would say probably about 60% of our net new were legacy folks, and then all of our legacy applications are going to be legacy folks as well. But it works. It works. Again, I think the culture is the glue that bound everything together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any other question in the room? Okay, so I have one. You mentioned that you did a reorganization. Can you talk a little bit as to how you organize the engineering teams and how that helped change your culture?
Yeah, we organize our engineering teams by function. So again, we needed to decouple everything because we had such a short timeline. And I know this isn't the structure that is desirable to everybody, but it works really well for us. Where it does have gaps and challenges, again, is when you're bringing everything together. I think the best analogy is sort of like an accordion, if you will. And how this works is every readiness day, we brought everything together to do all of our testing. Again, people, technology, applications, et cetera, and then would break apart again for everything else. But everything is structured by functional area versus more integrated.
Thank you. So if we don't have any more questions, we'll close. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thanks for sticking with me, guys.